The interesting thing about this is that her art is divesting from fossil fuels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so this is made out of trash and abaca. Right? So trash and banana leaves.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what she's, and I think iron gall ink is one of her what she uses. That's a statement in itself.
Yeah.
Just even the piece reflects how she feels an artist, as an artist, about her environment. Right. And where she comes from.
I think that's where it becomes a work of art and not just simply illustration, where it's illustrating a concept, it's embodying that, because it's doing something, right? It's not just a picture of that, but it's actually taking something out of the world. It's performing an action. It's actually addressing the issues that she's talking about instead of just making a picture of the issues that she's talking about. It's a hard thing to do. That's a tall order for an art to do, right? Yeah. So I think one of the things that I'm most interested in as we've been talking about this is the ethical responsibility of an artist to the subject matter. It would be really easy for this artist to make images that are depicting the depletion of the landscapes, of the natural resources, to depict pollution, the damages of the oil industry, et cetera. But it's something totally different to also completely divest from those materials like you're talking about. So not only is her studio run by solar power and is free of all of the entanglements of the oil industry, but then the work itself is doing that too. So I'm having an interesting moment right now where I'm looking at this and I'm like looking at myself and I'm like, I make things and I produce a lot of waste. So it's totally inspirational to think about an artist.
And I think that's the point of the artist. I think that's one of the things she's trying to make us realize is like, hey, what are we doing here?
Right.
And what are you doing?
Right, yeah.
Are you being responsible as well with these things?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
not all the time.
Not like you
not
are.
All the time. Not like you are.
Yeah.
Inspired. But at the same time, the realization of what are we hurting? We're hurting our home. Mm-hmm. And how will this continue?
Right. Yeah.
Which one's going to win?
Yeah.
And fossil fuels fundamentally are just dead animals and dead plants. Over millions of years.
Right.
So we keep tapping into that.
Yeah.
And like even even petroleum, right? Why do we even use that? It's because it has so much energy to it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It creates a great explosion. But the byproduct of that is horrible for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Art is a really good vessel for thinking about legacy and thinking about long-term thinking. Even the convention of like naming an artwork after the artist, right? Like this is a Picasso, is a Van Gogh, talks about a kind of lineage that it's going to live after the artist is gone. And it's interesting to then hold that in our heads and think about the ephemeral quality of these pieces and of their materiality to begin with, right? So it's talking about this long-term damage, but they feel very precarious on the wall. It feels delicate and like it could just be ripped off the wall, brittle right away, right?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting contradiction, and I think that contradiction,
I like that.
It's a really ripe place for artwork, right? It's a ripe place to think through things.
Yeah. Especially where we're at today,
For sure. Right, we're all living in contradiction, right? Yeah.
Every time I look at a piece of art, I always think, and you being an artist and me being on the science side, like I look at a piece and I always think, the artists who created this, were they influenced by science or were they influenced by an artist?
Yeah.
And so I always try to think about that when I first look at a piece of art. So for me, like Hannah Chalew, I think the science is influencing her art, but the connotations that are in the art itself definitely kind of doomsday to me.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Which way does it work for you?
I think
you being an artist, are you influenced by science, or does a lot of what you do come from other artists?
I'm going to make two grand statements.
Oh,
okay.
no.
Okay. I think the first grand statement is I think every work of art first contends with the history of art. So I think no matter what, and I actually think it's for you as a viewer, it does that first, right? Like I think in like a split second, when we look into a work of art, we're comparing it to everything we know about art, right? Yeah. Like in the back of your brain somewhere, there's like a billion drawings, even if you don't know it, and you're comparing it to those drawings. So first, I think it's that. Yeah. And then second, my second grand statement is I think science is our predominant way of knowing in the world right now. Yeah. So I think to be a person that's making anything, I think you're influenced by the world of science. Yeah. So is the subject matter directly drawing from science or not? That's a different question. Yeah. But I think the way that our logic is made is post-Enlightenment and comes from the scientific method. Yeah. So I think everything's influenced by science in some regard. And it's dawning on me that there's a nice poetic connection between the perspective of the viewer in these. And what I mean by that is, linear perspective, like vanishing points, perspective that's used to render space, is based on one person seeing, right? So then when we look at a drawing that's made with linear perspective, the viewer is in the place of the artist. But in these, there is no vanishing point. There is no perspective of the artist. It doesn't have a kind of, the perspective is strange and warped, and here, right, like I can't locate where we are actually viewing this landscape from, and then the other side, it's opposite. It's like, it's all tangled up on itself. So maybe even in that, in the form quality of the perspectival nature of these, there is some kind of conflict between the individual and the collective. We're almost viewing these, the perspective is almost asking us that we are a collective looking at these. Really esoteric, but I think that's embedded in there somewhere.
And to introduce a physics term, I gravitate towards it. Because of its shape. First thing was I want to know what it's made out of, and I wanted to touch it, okay, like a little kid.
For sure. I think there's a magic trick to drawing sometimes, and the magic trick is the amount of time that the artist puts in, we put in looking. Yeah. So there is a lot of love hours put into these. Like there's 1 billion marks made on that, right? There's a lot of little tiny detail. So then in the magic of drawing is that part of our psyche is then locked on to the artist making those marks, which has a gravitational pull. It has this pull, this like weird time flattening thing where then we're with the artist making that drawing. It's total magic. Yeah. So what is it formally, as in the form of what we're looking at? What is it in here, do you think, communicates that doomsday quality?
That you have our natural world being assaulted by industry.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
So it's just the depiction of the pipes?
The depiction of the pipes. Yeah. And of course, like any piece of art, we interpret it in our own way. That's what I love about art. Yeah. And so I see the pipes and I see vegetation growing around the pipes, but it's like this battle between what we naturally have, what we need naturally, but not only that, it's what we created. So what we're creating scientifically, is it choking out what gives us life? I like and that's kind of what this is hinting at to me. Yeah. For me, there's a definite distinct feeling that I get when I look at it.
Well, they're not bright, cheery looking depictions of a landscape. They are like they're grim. There's a grimness to them for sure. Yeah.
And that's what makes it an awesome artist, which I think Hannah is.
Yeah, totally.
She got me.
Yeah.